Pagan Nightly News Team.
Welcome to Pagan Nightly News for November 25th, 2022. And today we're bringing you a very special report on the Festival of Yule to be held in Tuscumbia, Alabama. In this, Kendall Gilchrist of Hesperia Magic Shop is sponsoring a Yule celebration that is basic Scandinavian, German, and the more traditional types of ideas that we have for these types of celebrations, being pagan-esque, but not necessarily pagan and meant for the entire community. And the town of Tuscumbia issued a permit for this and had no problem with it, but it got to be put on a letter to a review, as we've been hearing about this, a review by the clerk. So people thought they had a right to review and to protest this. And my gosh, the outrage that came out of there is that, and we've now got a very special interview with Kendall Gilchrist. We're going to have commentary by Reverend Don Lewis. And so let us go ahead and get into the report. Let us show you what it is, and let us share that interview.
And already had plans to come to the meeting to inform the city and surrounding areas of what the Yule Festival is about. I planned to come alone. A few days ago, a person I did not know personally came into my husband's shop looking to speak to me and let us know what was going on via Facebook regarding the festival. This person sent some screenshots of what some citizens of Tuscumbia were saying and planning to do. I found the comments shocking and very unexpected coming from these people. These comments stated Satanism, and that they needed to share and gather people to this meeting and appeal to the councilman to not allow this festival to happen. And I quote, "in our sweet town."
And today we're talking with Kendall Gilchrist of, how do you pronounce that? Hesperia Mystic Shop?
Hesperia Mystic Shop, yeah.
And I don't want, and your shop is a great shop out there in Alabama, and I don't want to mispronounce the name of the town, but you are hosting a Festival of Yule event in Tuscumbia? Tuscumbia, Alabama. From knows I have a little trouble with words sometimes, but there we go.
That's okay.
And that is going to be on December 3rd on Main Street from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. this year. And so you got so let me go ahead. So you have a very special story to tell. I think that is very important to us as pagans and people who just want to do good by the public. And that is that you went out and decided to do this festival, and you got a special permit from the city. Can you tell us a little bit about getting the actual permit?
Oh, yeah. Basically, I had originally held the first Yule Festival in Florence, Alabama last year. And honestly, I moved it to Tuscumbia for one. They were a lot easier about licensing, so it was easier on my vendors. And then we met with the Mayor, Carrie Underwood, and William Foster, and a couple other city officials, and the welcome was just overwhelming. It was so warm and sweet that I knew, everything was pretty much approved at that point, even though I hadn't done the paperwork yet. The paperwork was just a piece of paper. It was a very easy process to get the permit, no question. Told them what it was about, So not difficult at all to get permits, knowing that they were going to be, more than likely approved, and all my vendors that put them in, there was no question. They're selling, as one vendor said, cupcakes, candles, and crystals. Who's going to deny that?
Right.
So like a big boutique on the road, basically, it's just like, the vendor process was extremely easy, no question. City clerks were awesome.
And then something strange happened. And this has been approval. So I understand, before we even begin this, the city has never backed away from the special permit. The rest of the story is going to be interesting, but the city, from my understanding, has never backed away, and this event is going to go on no matter what has happened since then.
There was no way it was going to be canceled. I mean, right down to legal reasons, there was no way it was going to be canceled. I was issued the permit, like they have a section code that was quoted, in some of the media articles.
Right.
And of course, the city, even if they weren't for it, wouldn't do it for legal reasons. Like they don't want to get in a lawsuit.
No, but that wasn't, from what I can understand, that wasn't even an issue for the city itself. I mean, the city sounded like they were very welcome and wanted this to happen. But somehow, from what I understand, a letter was sent out that there was going to be a public commentary on this to your community, because there was some commentary by various Christian factions that were saying that they didn't want it. And so, and then this letter went out, which wasn't necessarily, from what I can tell, and no one's quite sure how that letter got out, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And so it got out to have a public meeting, and you were invited just to speak on your event, just to kind of be an educational piece, from what I understand.
Exactly.
Regardless of whether it is pagan or satanic or from whatever origin it is demonic because it is against Christ. There's only one true and living God, who is Christ, as revealed himself in his word. Therefore, any worship or glorification of any false deities that are contrary to Christ ought to be opposed by all peoples, especially Christians.
And it was never meant to be a public hearing. That was a mistake on the clerk's part. That's why it was fixed, because there was no way that there was voting happening with this. So they fixed that. So that it was just me representing and educational.
But at this point, it had gotten out to this community. And so what had happened was, and then you found out about this. So there was commentary in Facebook and probably other spaces as well from people being upset at this event. And you found out it because somebody brought it up to you. You weren't even aware that this was commentary was happening from originally.
No, I had no clue. I was literally about to walk into it. I was going to go alone and just thinking it was just going to be the city council with a few people that were expressing concerns. I did not know it was going to be like a mob kind of feel to it. I was unaware of that until a couple of days before. I literally hadn't wrote a speech or anything. My husband was getting on to me that I should have wrote notes just to talk about the festival. I literally was just going to go in there and just say a few words about my festival and leave.
And
had it not been for this person that reached out.
Right, because you were unaware that this would be at all controversial. It's just a small festival. You were going in there, and as you mentioned before, just to defend the idea of the festival. And so, then, in your own words, what happened next? I mean, we're seeing it. We can see it on YouTube. We can see it in other spaces. But can you tell us what happened next?
Well, I mean, I realized quickly that, this is more than just me talking about the festival. They're calling me something I don't view myself as, but I don't have anything against somebody that is. And I felt like I needed to make it clear who I am and what I'm doing now. So I realized, okay, my notes are coming more to need like a speech now. And so I just knew I had to start preparing a speech, and that's what I did next. Believe me, I wrote a few different ones, and I had to rewrite because I am personally learning how to react in love. It's something I think we all learn.
It's a tough thing to do. It is a tough thing to do.
And, I realized my words were going to be, I didn't know what group I was facing, to be honest with you. I had no idea who completely was against this. I had an idea of a few people that were, through the comments that were screenshotted to me. I didn't know the magnitude of who until Monday night. Right. So walking in was very much a shock for myself still. The hate was real. I've never felt energy like that before.
It's frightening energy, and it is. And I commend you, courageous. Let me go ahead and fill in a little bit more. The Christian community local there decided that they were going to use this as a platform against it and try to declare it this satanic. They literally accused it of being part of the Church of Satan, Luciferian, that Yule is somehow connected to try to substitute for Christmas. They made these outrageous claims and even said that we don't have room for paganism. Open Skies Open Skies, which is one of the other articles that created, said this was complete misunderstanding or ignorance on the part of what does religious freedom look like and the freedom of expression look like. And they were basically stating that there was no expression. And they basically began to scream at you. I mean, from what I can tell from the tape, I've watched the tape, they began, the pastor began and others began to state that this was not acceptable. This should never have been approved. That the town was wrong in what they were doing, and they tried to make you out to be a bad guy, a villain, in their story.
Yes.
That must be very
they
difficult.
definitely painted a picture.
They painted a picture of you being a villain who was out after the children. And one thing that seems to stick in their craw, and it's been sticking in the craw across the country, is Krampus. Krampus, because you were going to have Krampus, which is this long old Christian-based ideology of the punisher of bad children in Europe. It's kind of gained popularity here in America, and you were going to celebrate that. So,
according to some research that I have done, I just found out about this in the last couple of days, and I've done a lot of research on this. And Krampus, and I certainly hope I'm saying that correct, Krampus is depicted as having long, curved horns, fangs, a long tongue, and dark hair all over. I certainly trust that you folks, before you permitted this, I trust that you did research to see what all of this means. It makes it look very devilish.
Celebrate that. So can you tell us what your event really is about so that everybody knows in our audience what it is that you are going to have and where you should go down Tuscumbia, Alabama on December 3rd and show support. If you could at all make it, you should go down there and support this event.
Yes. It is a growing event. I have a very large vision for it, to be honest with you. You know, we are starting out smaller. I have 36 vendors this year. Pretty much, honestly, simply put, and this may sound boring after all this, but it's honestly a family-friendly event I put together to take away from the stress of the holiday season, the bustle, to just have fun and forget about it for a minute with play aspect to it. To promote local businesses. That's what I do. I'm a small business. Small businesses, I should say, not just local businesses. I want to promote them. It's what I do. I help people create. I inspire them. I think every one of my festivals, there's been vendors that have never gotten a business license that have it now, and some of them have taken off, and they have Etsy, and they have businesses going, and I'm so proud of them, and I'm so proud that I could be a part of that journey. It feels good. That's the premise of Yule, is just to kind of bring in some roots of the holiday season that aren't typically seen, especially in this area that I have roots to. I am German and Filipino mostly. I have very Germanic heritage, some in Norway, so you could say Nordic heritage too. And so that's why I kind of brought Krampus into this, because it was fun. He looks cool. He was a great photo op. That was the premise. He's just there to take pictures with, and then, we can talk about it.
And so, and your day, and what do you sell at your day-to-day shop? Your main.
I have a shop that's really open to all spirituality. If you were to come in there, you would see that there's spiritual tools for everyone. From crystals to candles to pendulums to jewelry, different symbols for different religion or non-religion. It's all there. I have Christians to Satanists who shop in my shop, and they're all the kindest people that I've ever met. I cater to everyone. My shop is here to show that, everyone can buy their spiritual tools and get spiritual healing. I have an energy house worker, Sarah with Sky Visions, who does Reiki healing there and tarot readings on Christians and non-Christians alike. a very community-based shop built on community, what the community
And
asked for. And yeah, that's it, pretty much.
do you have a website for that
We
shop?
don't.
Oh, good. So you're a real
We're so
shop.
tiny. We're so tiny.
Oh,
We're
there you
two
go.
moms, that kind of cater to the local community. Now we may work on getting a website, but we literally ran a booth before together, and we made it a permanent booth. It's the size of a booth, this little shop, if you could see.
So wow, that is really cool. And they do have a Facebook page. So you got that. Wow. So you decided to do this event, and it sounds like, and you're a community activist. You really want to help out businesses, and you're building your own. You got this contract, and now you faced all this anger. What's next for you? I mean, other than holding the event, and I have no doubt that you've mentioned that the police are very good around there, that you probably have that sort of protection, that the city's still staying behind you. But what's next with this, other than hosting any of the event?
I don't know what's next, honestly. I know that Sarah and I both have some projects in mind that will hopefully come out in the new year that I feel now will be well supported. Goodness for that, right? That's the great advertising we got, and I cannot be more grateful for that. But I really don't know what's next. I plan on just being the mom I am. I have 2 beautiful children. My husband runs Noble Sparrow Tattoo that's right next to my shop. It's in the same building. We're just here living our best life, to be honest with you, and I'm going to go back to that and keep inspiring people and keep growing this festival. And then the other things I do will have that intent.
Well, I think that's a great plan. I think that's a lot of it is, and people don't realize how sometimes it's hard is it. So you're going to do this event, and you're going to see how it turns out, and it probably sounds like it's a wonderful event. And there's nothing small about 36 vendors. That's a good sized event.
Thank you. Next year, maybe I foresee we have a lot more, which is great. I hope we can take up the entire city, all the streets, and celebrate for one day.
And how big is this town, if I can ask? I didn't look that up.
It's not very. You know what? I
Go ahead.
haven't even looked up the population myself to tell you. But it is more of a small town feel. Definitely. It's not like tiny, but because Helen Keller was born there, so there's a lot of tourism there for Helen Keller.
I learned that Helen Keller, one of the bravest women in the world, and one who overcame so many obstacles. So I thought that was very interesting there. I saw that as well. So now that you faced this crowd and you did your best with it, and I thought you did an admirable job. I thought you very courageous, very brave to do what you did. And
Thank you. For someone, I can tell you, with crippling stage fright my entire life, this was a test for me as well. So
you're going to get past that stage fright, because I think there are good things out there for you. So
yeah.
So one last question in this circle. We're going to have this event. You can go to it. It'll be on December 3rd. If you're in the area, go to it, support this and everything else. How do you feel about, now that you've seen this sort of outrage, that a lot of other communities have been seeing this idea of the protest, the outrage. Do you feel about it? Do you have any feelings about it? Do you think it's something that you have to be concerned about, or is it something that's just passing, or what is your thoughts on it?
Well, I see why now. I've been reading a lot of the Toltec wisdom books by, I don't know if you've heard of the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, all his series of books. They've really come into my life heavily this year, and I see why now, because I pulled a lot of my strength from that, because I could have reacted in anger. I did have moments where I did feel it kind of start to well up in me, but I knew it was a test for me to react in love. That's the whole premise of what I have been learning this year. And so, to be honest with you, I honestly don't feel anger. I have come to realize that I need to love these people because, we're all one here. We are. And I need to love them, and I need to be grateful because they've done so much for me. As far as advertising and exposing me and what I'm doing and exposing all religions and exposing anti-bullying and people that stand for that. We have to be grateful for these people, and not all these people in these churches are like that. I've had people reach out to me that go to these churches that are now questioning their faith, and maybe not questioning their faith, maybe I shouldn't say that, but questioning their leaders.
Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse. And I've been asked to do an editorial on this story about Hesperia Magic Shop and their Yule Festival in Tuscumbia, Alabama, and their experience with the city council. And the reason is because I myself have been through a similar experience with Witch School and the city council in Hoopeston, Illinois, when we moved our headquarters there. Those of you who have followed our work for many years will remember this. Others may be hearing it for the first time, but we had an almost identical experience to this. So I do have room to speak to it. First thing I'd like to say is that my heart goes out to Kendall and to Hesperia Magic Shop for having to go through this at all. It is a horrifying experience to face what is in effect a mob who you don't know whether they're going to turn violent or not. I have to say that it's very hard not to consider that possibility when emotions raise as high as they do in these circumstances. We're certainly very glad that did not happen here. We're glad the city council did the right thing. We're glad the local police are doing the right thing. And I think everything's going to work out well for them because of that. In our case, in Hoopeston, we had a similar experience. We had a large hostile group of people who I think could justifiably be called a mob, very heightened emotions. And even the local police were afraid that it might turn violent. They felt it necessary to escort us to our cars when we left at the end of the evening because they thought there might be violence in the parking lot. Both the city council and the local police did do the right thing. The local police particularly assured us that this did not really represent their community and that many of the people who were present that evening were not from the community. In fact, many had been bussed in from other places, and I think this might have happened also in Tuscumbia. I can't say that I know, but it's not an uncommon tactic. This whole thing is not an uncommon tactic. In the case of the Yule Festival in Tuscumbia, this really should never have been at a city council meeting in this way. It's not the sort of thing that's normally the subject of it, but it did become the subject of it, and that is a strategy on the part of Christian dominionists to give them a format in which to make their opinion known and to try to stop other religions from having a presence in local communities, either simply by intimidating them or by getting enough people to bend the law to prevent it. I'm happy to say for the most part, that does not work. And here we see that our social institutions were stronger than the challenge to them. That was the case in Hoopeston also. But the opposition to our presence did not go away, but it was not the majority. And it did not spread into illegality. And this is a very important thing. I think this is the main thing I would say that our social institutions are holding But the challenges to them are getting stronger, and all you have to do is look at the news to see that. Christian dominionism, which is what this movement really is, although they rarely call themselves that, but they believe that they are the only ones who have a right to religious freedom. And if you watch this full city council meeting, which you can see on YouTube, you'll see that several of them say exactly that they alone have a right to religious freedom. And luckily, they are not the majority of the population. They're about 25% perhaps. But that's big enough to make a difference. And if you look at the news again, you'll see they are making a negative impact against minorities of many communities. I would like to say that, one, we have reason to be hopeful of our future, but we also really need to be vigilant about our future. We need to realize that this is not some remnant of the past, but a very powerful contemporary movement that is seeking a Christian nationalist state. And we need to realize that's out there, and we need to stand against it. And we need to continue standing against it, because although we certainly are not the only ones standing in its path, if everyone who opposes it does not stand up, we may not be able to defeat it. This is certainly, in my opinion, the defining fight of our time. And it's not just a pagan fight. It's a pagan fight, it's an ethnic fight, it's an LGBTQ fight, it is an intellectual academic fight, because if you watch the news, you'll see that they really want to eliminate certain sorts of academic discussion. And in some places, they have become very powerful. But in no place are they the majority. And we need to, one, take heart from that, and two, make sure that does not change. We need, as I've often said, to take command of our own media presence, our own image, get our own message out there, and not allow those groups who stand for hate and division to dominate the discussion. And every one of you who's watching this can play a role in that by speaking your own truth. The more we speak our own truth, the more we stand up for ourselves, I feel the brighter future we can build. But if we stay silent, if we stay in the shadows, if we do not do anything, I think that we have a lot more to fear than if we stand up. So these are my opinions on the subject, based in part on having gone through an almost identical situation. As far as Kindle and Hesperia Magic Shop go, I think that their event will probably come off without significant interruption. It's possible there might be protesters. I think that's probably the worst that they would face, based on the strength of their saying that the city council and the police were doing the right thing. I do think they will have a strong opposition to their presence indefinitely, but not the majority of people. However, a strong minority can swing a situation. It ultimately did for us in Hoopston, together with changes in the economy and our reasons for being there. But just because it's a minority movement doesn't mean that it cannot gain control in the situation, and we need to be mindful of that. So again, my message to you is to stand up for your truth, to stand up for who you are, for the world that you want to see. I often like to quote Gandhi in the saying, be the change you want to see. And I find that in a situation like this, it's all the more important. So thank you for your attention, and back to Hal.